Okay, so I want to do another one of these that's based on the one that we just did. The only thing we're going to change is these are going to be objects instead. And let's give them names too. So Matt, Bryce, Tiffany, and Amp. Okay, so I have this array of objects. The task I'm going to put to you is write the code that prints. I'm going to give a. I'll bring back that over 21 function. Takes in an age, returns age over 21. Write the code that prints the name of each person who's over 21. Write the code that prints the name of each person over 21. Go. I see that Sharon popped in. Sharon, over in inbox, I've got the prompt up for this.
Was it in the chat?
No, that'll be the inbox prompt
Inbox.
in Sika.
Oh, in Sika. Okay, thank you.
I wish there was a way where I could correct my answer when I hit submit.
I thought I gave you all a way to. Don't you have a button or
No,
something?
because as soon as I hit enter, I was like, damn it, forgot a parentheses.
Yeah, Tiffany, I think I'm in a similar boat. Like, I think my syntax is all messed up.
I know mine's wrong anyway, because I'm like, I don't know how to get into the object or things. So
Yeah.
All
Mine's
right,
right,
let's start
yours
taking a
wrong.
look at some of these. Yep. Okay, so if I do this one, first problem is that I'm, this is just rewriting this one. So prompt was, write the code that prints the name of each person who's over 21. So that one's basically just the same logic there. Syntax, though, with a if statement, always needs to have parens. And I would also recommend, you're not required to do braces. You should always do braces. There's no good reason to not do them. But that, it's not exactly the same thing. So let's look at what this would do. This takes in an age, and if the age is over 21, it returns the age. If it's not over 21, it returns nothing. That's how we would break that one down. All right, let's take a look at another one. All right, so we got some indentation issues, but and some syntax issues. Same one, actually. That one needs a closing paren there, and it needs braces. That's legit, though. Let's see what happens. So ages is an array of objects. Arrays have for each methods. That works. Oops, I was a little tricky, though. That really isn't an age, is it? That's this object, the whole thing. So is over 21 age. Actually, let's draw this all out.
Kyle, you just confused me by what you just said, because that age right after the for each, I thought it could be named anything.
Well, let's see. The fact that it can be called anything is part of why this is a little bit tricky.
Okay.
So that ages is this one. Those match up. The problem is I named this a little bit badly because it's not really ages. It's like people. That means each one of these age parameters, that is like that. That's the whole object. So then we pass that whole object into is over 21. So then that ends up being the same thing. So then I'm saying, is this object greater than or equal to the number 21? How is it going to do that? It'll probably just throw an error. And then if it were true, we would console log the variable name. Error, name is undefined. There's nothing in scope called name. Questions about why that doesn't work?
So what you're saying makes sense to me, because I'm pretty sure this is mine. My question is, because I'm grabbing the whole object of age,
Mm-hmm.
which we defined as the variables name and age in there,
Mm-hmm.
because it's grabbing the whole thing, it won't just compare age to age, it'll compare the whole block
The
name
whole
at
thing.
age 14 to the, okay, so that's why it's not going to work.
Yeah, there's no way to like compare an object to a number like that.
So we have to transform, so we'd have to transform that into a number first. So would it have been better to do like ages.map?
We could, like, that's a valid way to do it. What's the smallest change we could make to this, though? If age is, it's actually the person. We just named the variable badly. I named the variable badly. And I actually want to pass in the age. And this is representing the entire object. How do I pass the age in?
On line 20, can we say age.age?
Yes, you can.
Whoa.
That works. That works. It's because even though I called it age and I called this ages, that's not what it is. Really, a better thing to call this would have been people. Oops. Person. That's the exact same code. I could call it P. That's the same code. I could call it age. That's the exact same code. That's the exact same code. Doesn't matter what they're called, they just have to match, even if they're confusing.
So we can totally use the dot method for a parameter of a function. That there's no issues with that.
Careful, are any of these
Is
parameters?
it because it's an object?
Or I'm
Yes.
sorry, not parameter, it's a variable.
So like the first age is referencing the variable ages, and then the dot age references the inside the object age.
So let's map the whole thing out. So now that we've fixed it, let's do another screenshot and trace things through this. All right, so ages is this array of objects. Good so far. Arrays have for each methods. Age is actually that entire object. Like that. So is over 21 age, which again, that and this object are the same thing. So that means that that is the same thing as that. That's the parameter. That's us using the parameter. And if that all represents that big ol' object, well, the big ol' object has an age property. So we can access the age property. And then this expression evaluates to that value. So then that value ends up being what goes in there and what goes in there. 14 is not greater than or equal to 21. So this whole line evaluates to false, which means this whole thing evaluates to false, which means this block doesn't execute. We go to the next one. That's the whole object. That's that. That's that. The age is that property there. So that value gets passed in to over 21. 55 is greater than or equal to 21. So this entire thing evaluates to true. That means that entire thing evaluates to true. That means this block executes. Age, which again is the thing in yellow, does it have a name property? Y. Yes, it does. And so it console logs the string Bryce. Ask me questions.
So in an earlier example, we couldn't call it because it was an array. It didn't have the array didn't have a age property for us to dot anything to.
Right.
And this is, okay. So
But
this
each
does.
object has an age property.
Right. Right.
And even if it's named confusing, does not change what the data type is.
Wait, not to call back on that previous example, but that animals one that we did,
Yeah.
it did have gender, age, and species
Yeah.
or whatever. But when we tried to do the dot age in that one, it didn't work. But this one, it does.
So let's look at what that would have been. Actually, I might even still have it. Let's see. There we go. Cool. So with this one, let me try to find. Okay, so these were all the different ways we did this. This one works. This one works because each animal has an age. The problem is that the entire animals array does not have an age property. Only the individual objects do. So we only have access to those when we're iterating over them. So like, we can do that there, that's fine. We can do that there, that's fine, we're iterating. We can do that, we're iterating. If we take in an object, we can get its age, that's fine. That's how that works.
Okay.
There was also that special case in this animals example where we had put each age into an array. And then there was the question of, could you do the dot age off that array? And the conclusion we got to was no.
You are correct. Let's look at some more. Okay, so for this one, let's fix the syntax. Yeah, I guess we can put a semicolon there. But problem is we're not closing this paren. Pro tip on that, when you're writing parens, braces, brackets, any of that kind of stuff, just do both of them at the same time. So when you do like ages.map, both of them. All right, and then I do, I'm going to put parentheses around the parameter in there, both of them. And then, okay, so that's age. And then I'm going to open up these, both of them. That's how you keep from missing the matching one. Whenever you open one, always just do the matching one immediately and then go back and fix your formatting or whatever. But that's the easiest way in JavaScript to make sure you've always got matching things. All right, so fixing the syntax, let's take a look at what we got. So this is the same thing where age isn't actually the age, it's the entire person object. So we're passing that in. So that would need to be age.age or person.age. So we've got two other pretty big problems with this, though. One of them is related to the fact that we're using map. What's the problem?
That's going to transform our array.
Yeah, into what?
And the
Into
same thing.
just the ages.
What is this? What is this function we're passing into map returning?
Console log.
I don't see a return keyword.
Oh.
We're not doing that. Coincidentally, it would be the exact same thing if we did. So what is drink?
So that'd just be undefined, the drink.
You're on the right track. It's still a map. Map always evaluates to an array.
So then would we need to for each on top of the map?
Why do we need to do the map at all?
Well, we don't, but in this example, I guess, I don't know.
It's returning a string.
Is it returning a string? It's not returning anything right now.
Not this one specifically, but you were asking what a map returns.
No, it returns whatever you want to transform the thing into. And so since it's not returning anything now, that means the return value is undefined. So we transformed an array of 4 objects into an array of 4 undefines. If we had done that, it would turn an array of 4 objects into an array of 4 trues. If we did this, it will turn an array of objects into an array with the string high 4 times. I think the easiest way to think of those like array transformations with map and stuff if that's the array and we have a like a double function or something, that's going to, actually, I'm going to do it this way. We're going to send each of those into that function. Turn it into 2, 4, 6, 8. That's what mapping is. We take some function and apply it to every item in the array, use it to build a new array. Now, you're generally supposed to base whatever the output is on whatever the input was. There's not a ton of good reasons to not do that. You don't have to. This one doesn't return anything, so it transforms 4 objects into 4 undefines. Or the number 1 4 times. Just whatever gets returned from this function, that's what it'll be. Nothing's being returned right now, so And also console log is a statement. Statements evaluate to undefined. So that would do the same thing anyway. Questions about that?
So to fix this, instead of using .map, we'd use for each.
Okay.
But then the rest of this would be so our person, which is our ages.
So what is getting logged? Trace the logic on this.
This would just reprint every object, wouldn't it?
Would it?
So we have the array of ages for each object in the array. You would console.log, but it still has to run through the function. So
Yeah.
it would just return back false.
Correct. And then?
And then our console log would be null. No.
Oop.
False.
False. And then
False.
True.
and then true. And then
True.
and then the last one?
False.
Good. So it logs false, true, true, false. Because the first object is Matt. Matt's age is 14. Is over 21 is going to return false. That means this expression evaluates to false. That means we're console logging false.
And it's not running the entire object through the function because we have person.age.
Bingo. We've pulled the property out. If I do this, now I'm passing the
False.
entire object in. Is the Matt object greater than or equal to 21? That's a nonsense comparison. Let's look at some more. Come on. All right, let's unfuck the syntax on this a little bit. Okay. Okay, pro tip. That is the only way anybody should be writing if-else statements. Always with parentheses, always with braces. Just like that. There's even a name for this. It's called OTB, or the one true brace style. But, like, don't do these shortcut things where you're doing, like, if some condition console.log or whatever. There's exactly one syntax you should be using for those if-else chains. If it's just if-else, looks like that. Always, 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 every time. So let's put some braces on that. Doing both at the same time. Could have also done that as like that, like that. So now I know I've got matching ones. There's no reason to wrap that in parens, so let's get rid of those. All right, now we can take a look at the logic of this. This one's real close. So we take an array of objects. arrays have a for each method. Now remember, tricky thing is age is the entire object. So we still have that passing the entire object in problem where the mat object is greater than or equal to 21. So we could do that. Now if we do that, 14 is not greater than or equal to 21. So this is false. That means we go to the else block. And it's going to console log this string. Okay, the person dot the name. So we're currently on Matt. So it says, Matt, get out of the bar, kid. We don't serve your kind here. All right, so then we go to we're eaching. So our next one is Bryce. If this expression evaluates to true, the Bryce object dot age is 55. So that means that this is 55, which means that this is 55, which means that this is true. Since that's what this is returning, that means that this evaluates to true, which means that this block executes. The template string, the Bryce object dot name is Bryce. So it says, Bryce can drink. And I know he can. I've done it with him before. And that probably makes more sense if that's person. Questions about that?
Couldn't you have also done a is it ternary operator?
Ternary.
Ternary operator.
Ternary. And absolutely.
Because you did a video about programming without ifs.
Yeah, you're familiar with my back catalog. So yeah, the way that I would do this same thing with ternaries. And I actually don't need the parens on that. This and this are the exact same thing. That's how you would write this with ternaries.
Is there, I mean, I don't want to be reaching too far in my own head here. Is there a striking similarity between this ternary format and a switch statement? Or a switch chain?
No, so a switch looks at one value and then compares a bunch of different things that it could be. So
That would be dynamic dispatch.
Tiffany.
I'm researching.
I love it. Love it. So switch statement would be like person.age. And you might have case. Something like 14. And then you might return 8th grade. You're looking at all these like different values that something could be, like that. And then you have the equivalent of an else is default. That's a switch statement.
Okay, cool.
So with your ternary operator, you still need to do the for each or no?
Yeah, it's still inside this for each. The
Okay,
ternary is
okay.
just a condensed if-else statement.
Okay, cool.
Which to me makes more sense because the question mark is, hey, if it's this, great. If it's not, then we're going to go to this.
I'm a fan of them as well. You'll find that they're not everybody's like us and sees through the matrix. Ternaries are kind of unpopular, but I also think that they're easier to read. Other questions about this?
So the first thing we need to look at is what kind of object is it, or like, is it an array? Is it an object?
Yep.
Then we're gonna have to do properties and whatnot. If not, then we're not gonna use like dot anything, dot notation if it's an array.
Yep.
And then mapping is if we're gonna transform something. For each is just to get the values of each thing. Okay. I'm just trying to do like a checklist of when we get the problem.
Sure.
What's the right protocol to think of from the bat?
That's a great strategy. The thing that I think people are struggling with the most is you see ages. You have to consider ages as like exactly like you copy and pasted that whole array in. And then for each, all right, well, what is the parameter for the function that you give for each? Well, it's each item. What is the item? And be like really literal about it. It's this mat object. It's an object that has a name property and an age property. Okay, so that's what this is. That's what it is there. That's what it is there. That's what it is there. So now that I know that that's the mat object has an age, the mat object has a name. But like, most of this is substituting the placeholder for the real value. That's how you keep yourself out of trouble.
So if you were to change this ages into just an array of those things, you would take out the individual brackets around the objects inside, or what would the syntax change?
If they were all individual objects?
Yeah, if you're going to keep everything else the same, I mean, not individual objects. If this was just an array of those things, we wouldn't be able to do the dot notation on it.
An array of which
What
things?
would be just an array of objects?
It
I
is
mean,
an
I
array
I mean,
of
like
objects.
a array of names.
Like where we had the sheep and the cow and everything like that. I'm looking at the syntax. You got an array of objects in
Yep.
here. So what was the difference between that and the cows? It was just an array of arrays, or what was?
No, the cows was the exact same problem.
Okay.
So let's go back.
You do that so fast.
Control Z.
Animals was also an array of objects.
But we
And see, I was trying to pull them out. Like, I did ages and then I did the square brackets and put name dot age, trying to pull it out before I did my filter. That was definitely not the right way to do it.
so
Not the
this
right
this
way.
may be going backwards, but why is it that animals doesn't have an age property if persons did?
It's just whatever you want it to be. Animals has an age property because I put an age property on there. People had an age property because I put an age property on there.
I know, but like when we went through the example, we couldn't do the dot notation on animal dot age or whatever for one
We
of
could
these
do animal
examples.
dot age. We couldn't do animals dot age.
That's what we were doing. We were doing animals.age
Okay.
on the actual
Okay.
array.
Because yeah, animals is the whole array. Arrays don't have an
I
age
got
property.
you. I got you. So when we did the arrow brackets and called it animals, that was the new slot for that object. And then we found the
Bingo.
age. Okay. I got you.
For each gave us access to each item in there. These items happen to be objects, and each of those objects happens to have an age property.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's the case where we could have called animal fart, and then you could
Exactly.
do fart.age, right?
Correct.
Is that why? Because a lot of times when I see like for each, I notice that like the name of whatever's inside, like after the for each,
Mhm.
it's always the singular version of like the object. I guess it's so
Yup.
you don't get lost, right?
So,
So like you know where you're pulling from.
champion! That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what makes this so confusing right now, because I'm calling these ages, but they're not ages. They're people. And so if I do that plural and I do that singular, that's not like the law. You can call that whatever you want. it just makes yourself less confused if it's plural than singular.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I can call that P. That's fine. More questions?
So when we do a for each, and so we have an array of objects. So basically, the for each is just like it's. I know it's giving us access, but it's giving us access to. Is it each object, or is it giving us just access to an element? Just whatever's in there.
Whatever's in there. So if it's an array of objects, they're all objects. If it's an array of numbers, each one of them is a number. If it's an array of strings, then they're all strings. It's just whatever the item in the array is. For each will give you access to each of those items. And then same thing with map, same thing with filter, same thing with all of them. What they're doing is applying a function to every one of those things. And that function is this thing here. If I just change the syntax a little bit, Nope. Okay, so all I've done is like hit enter a couple times. Really need to underscore, that is a function. That's one of our syntaxes for functions. I could have also written that exact same thing like that. Exact same thing. I can swap those out. Nothing is any different. That's the same code. If I put this in here and I get rid of some of that extra space, that's how you get that really tight, terse stuff.
So this might be a little off base of a question, but I would like to try to tie it back into what we're doing now. Could we have an array of key value pairs, such as mat:14, amp:55?
So you can do that, but that's not an array. Key value pairs are objects. So now if I did that, like const people is an object with a mat property and a Bryce property and a Tiffany property and an amp property. You can do that. The problem is it's actually pretty difficult to iterate over that. Because objects don't have a for each method. They don't have a map method. They don't have a find method.
Right.
All those things are on arrays.
So it's never the case that we're going to find an array that looks like this kind of key value pair that we see in objects.
Yep, that is just an object.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
If you do need to iterate over that, you can, but you need to do something like object.entries and pass it in. What that does is it turns it into an array of arrays. So it'll look like this. If I were trying to map over those, the name is that, and the age is that. So if you do need to iterate over an object, you have to do it like that way.
I see.
Or alternatively, you could do object.keys and now that's going to be each person's name. Or you can do object.values, and that's going to be each person's age. If you want them both, it's entries.
And you couldn't use array from in that instance?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because that takes every single thing and turns it into an array. So it'd be like Matt, comma, 14 Bryce.
So yeah, it might be like, it might turn it into an array of arrays. So like, if I did array from people, I don't know this for sure, but that could be like, and so on.
Oh, that's awful. I hate that.
As well you should. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, these things are called
Thank you.
tuples. They do like come up every once in a while. We won't really do anything with them in this program, but an array where the position of each thing in the array is important. So it's not like a list of things. It's more like the thing at the 0 index is the name. The thing at the 1 index is the age. Those are called tuples.
Thank you.
They use the same syntax, though. Other questions? All right, I'm going to give you the exact same question. Let's see if we can do a little bit better. Write the code that prints the name of each person who's over 21. Go for it. I fixed the name of the variable, by the way. It's people now.
Do you guys know if there's a way to like tab inside that inbox response box?
5 spaces, friend.
5 spaces. Okay.
5 spaces.
Thank you.
Much better. Much better. Okay, so let's talk about some of these. Wait for my browser to catch up. All right. On the whole, much better. Let's take a look at a couple ones that we need to fix. Okay, so first thing, gotta fix the syntax. That's right. That's right. This is what I was talking about with ifs. Ifs always have to have parentheses, always have to have braces. Now, if we do that, we're pretty close. What's the one thing we're missing?
It has to be person.name.
Person.name. There is no variable called name. There's a person.name, though. That works. Let's take a look at this one. Oops, is that the same one? It's the same one. Wait for my computer to catch up. There we go. Okay, so this one. So we have people. Uh-oh, what's the problem here?
It has to be people.age.
Mm,
Oh, it's got to be person.
person. Plural?
Singular.
Singular. Okay, now we're doing okay. Oop, what's the problem with this? What's people.age?
That also needs to be that needs to be person as well.
Right, so what's people.age?
The array.
There's not a value for it.
There's not a value for it. People is an array. Arrays don't have age properties. So then, so what does that evaluate to then? Specific value.
Undefined.
Undefined. So then undefined gets passed into the is over 21 function. Undefined is greater than or equal to 21. That's an error. All right, so I changed that to person. All right, so for each person, I pass their age into is over 21. And then what happens to that result?
It returns true or false.
Right.
To the function.
And so then what happens to that, true or false? Where's it go?
It doesn't go
Isn't
anywhere
nothing.
Doesn't go anywhere.
because it's a for each.
Right. So then I go over here. I don't need those parentheses around this. What is people.name?
Undefined.
Undefined. So I log undefined. But even if I make this person.name, what happens then?
Well, it still would be undefined because we don't have it comes back true and false, right? So it doesn't give us an actual value to put in here.
And
You're
for
like,
eaches don't do a value.
Don't
Not
return
within-
value.
Oh,
It's not within.
Sharon has it.
It's not within the scope of that,
Not
so it's not
within
going
the
to do.
scope. Yes. Oh, and you use the vocab too. Person's scope is only like up to here. There is no person outside of that because we only have it when we're iterating over people. So that's undefined. There is no variable named person that's in scope. So I'm trying to get the name property of undefined. That's an error. And so when you get something that's like, cannot get property name of undefined, that's what it's telling you. That's undefined. Undefined doesn't have any properties. Okay, so let's save this. I kind of like this code. What do I need to do to turn my array of 4 people into an array of 2 people? Smallest change I can make.
Put it in brackets or in the curly brackets. You put the
Add an if.
Could do that. Remember, I'm still doing
But
for each. For each is like an action that I want to do a bunch of times. I'm trying to transform, maybe transform's the wrong word. I'm trying to take an array of 4 people and turn it into only an array with Bryce and Tiffany in it.
Filter.
Filter.
Sure.
So if I filter that, hey, that works. This expression evaluates to an array with 2 people in it. So then, how do I print the names of those 2 people?
We could assign that entire statement into a constant and then console.log the variable.
So I could do that and say like of age people. That's gonna log that. And if I look back at what the instructions were, print the name of each person who's over 21. That didn't work. What's the smallest change I can make to this?
To how it is now or how it was.
Yeah, let's reset it. Oh, let's get rid of this too. Okay, so I've filtered it down to an array of 2 people. Let's say that was just what I was starting the problem with. Like, if I made the problem, how do you log the names of the people? What would you do?
Console log people.name.
So if I do console, hang on, let me get these guys back. If I do console.log people.name, I get undefined. Why?
Does it need to be person.name? Or is
Uh,
person still undefined too?
If I do that, error, cannot get property name of undefined.
What about is over 21 and then name in parentheses?
Is over 21, name.
No,
So
you
that's
got
going to
you got a
log.
line through it.
That's going to log undefined because there is no variable in scope called name. So this is going to say is, it's probably going to error actually, seeing if undefined is greater than or equal to 21. So that's not it. If I gave you an array of 2 objects, how would you log one property from each of them?
Bracket notation.
Okay, so I could say that kind of works. I'd have to do it twice. Well, that's
Right.
sloppy. That'll do it. I don't like that, neither should you.
We'll do it for each.
Hey, there we go. So, what am I for eaching over?
Well, if we're given the people as it stands now, wouldn't we need to put our people filter within the for each?
Would we?
Oh, no, never mind. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Because,
We're chaining it.
yeah,
Right.
this expression evaluates to an array. That's why we can for each off of it. Arrays have for each methods. So that evaluates to an array with 2 people in it. So what am I for eaching?
Console log person.name.
Yes. So one other thing I need. I do console log person.name. I'm missing one thing.
Before the console log, we need to do our function. We can do the fat arrow. So it'll be person to stick with Matt's console log. There we go.
That works. I like that.
It definitely doesn't feel like one simple thing, though. That's for sure.
No.
Totally legit way to do that. What most of you did was some variant of this. That's fine too. That and this accomplish roughly the same thing.
Could you show us the temperate ladder looking or the
What was that?
question mark one?
Doing it with a ternary?
Yes, absolutely. Just with the one that's on 23 through 29 there.
So, oh yeah, so if I did that with a ternary instead, that would look like that.
Very cool.
That and that are the same thing.
Isn't that cool, Sean?
That's
When
so
I saw
cool.
him do that in a video and I was reading about it, I was like, that is just so awesome.
I like it too. My favorite thing about ternaries, though, is that you can assign them, like the results of a ternary, into a variable. So I could do something like const message equals, and then instead of console logging these, I assign them into that variable and then console log the variable. So it's an if-else, and also you can assign something to it. So if I was doing that with this, I would have to say let message equal empty string, and then message equals message equals this and this are the same thing. But you can see on the ternary, I can actually do the assignment directly.
Yeah. It's less
cool.
loud. It feels
And it's a lot less loud. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Very cool. Good one, Tiffany. I'm gonna use that forever now.
Again, I'll warn you, there are some of these things that people love out in the wild, not allowed in this house. This is one of these things that's always allowed in this house, but it's not always allowed in every house. But you'll never see me getting mad about a ternary. More questions about any of this?
If we wanted more practice, where could we find some exercises to do? Simple.
Beyonce. Beyonce's a really good one to build and burn. It was kind of designed with that in mind. So even if you've like gotten your green check mark and stuff, which all of you have, do it again. It's all just problems like this. That's a pretty good one. Other data transformation ones. I feel like. Let me see if I have another one in the library. But until I find that, yeah, it should be Beyonce. It's a great one.
Okay.
Oh, remembered it. Object ball. Let me pull that up real quick. Let's see. Do I have an object ball that's in Sika? All right, so this one has all the extra bullshit in it. Where are they? Anyway, this is an assignment that does a little bit of that stuff too. It also works a lot with objects and nested objects. So you end up doing stuff like that a lot. But there's tons of map filter reduce kind of stuff in here too. Cool. Any other questions before we break for the day?
Thank you for your patience today, Kyle.
Oh, of course.